Bitcoin dropped 13% in less than 3 days, touching 65K earlier today. We talk volatility in Bitcoin and why everybody is celebrating this crash. Plus, we uncover why so many investors like Vanguard CEO dismiss Bitcoin as a speculative asset, not worthy of being in a long-term portfolio. What are they missing? And El Salvador makes history again, becoming the first country to disclose their Bitcoin holdings in a public address for the world to see. And their Bitcoin profits are up 80 million. Will they end up being on the right side of history? What can university endowments teach us about this investing strategy? Let's get into today's episode. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Bitcoin Daily Show. I'm Dante Cook, head of Swan Business. At Swan, we're on a mission to educate the world about Bitcoin, and we have one core philosophy as a company: do what's right for Bitcoin and for Bitcoiners. And so we make ourselves available and we educate every time we get a chance to. So send me an email at daily@swanbitcoin.com and I'll be sure to answer your emails myself. I'll get back with you and get you the help that you need on your Bitcoin journey. And with that, let's get into the episode. Happy Friday and happy early St. Patrick's Day. As you can see, I'm rocking one of the only green things I have from my alma mater, William & Mary, where I played football. I wanted to wear something green for all of you crazy people celebrating St. Patrick's Day out there, but I also wanted to tell you a quick story about William & Mary and what this may mean for Bitcoin. William & Mary is the second oldest university in the US, being founded in 1693, and is one of the most prestigious in the world. It's one of the toughest academic institutions in the country. I would know. I was probably the dumbest guy there when I went there. One interesting fact about William & Mary: unlike other schools of their prestige and maybe their age, like Harvard, Yale, Princeton, William & Mary has a relatively small endowment. For example, Harvard has an endowment of $50 billion, and Yale, $40 billion. Stanford and Princeton are right behind them at about $35 billion. And what's William & Mary's? It's little over $1 billion. It's actually ranked 106th in the endowment list. Why is that? Well, back around the Civil War, William & Mary invested its treasury into Confederate war bonds. They chose to go with the cash flowing option versus the store value option. And you know what the value of those Confederate war bonds are. What would the value of their treasury look like today if they had instead invested into a store value asset versus electing for the cash flowing asset that they could value? Speaking of bonds, and another organization who might end up on the wrong side of history, listen to what Vanguard CEO had to say about Bitcoin as a speculative asset and not worthy of being in a long-term portfolio.
It's in the news. Spot Bitcoin ETFs. Question came in, hey, we know you're not offering one. Have you changed your mind? What would it take for you to change your mind? We don't plan to, and we don't, we're not going to change our minds around this unless the asset class changes. Yep. Why? First of all, we don't believe it belongs. Like a Bitcoin ETF belongs in a long-term portfolio. If someone's saving for their retirement, it's a speculative asset.
That's exactly it.
And the funds that we offer invest in asset classes that actually have underlying cash flow. So, like we mentioned stocks, you're buying the forward earnings of a company.
That's right.
And that bond, right,
has coupon and principal payments.
Yeah, you're going to pay me back and you're going to pay me something for lending you the money.
Exactly.
Right, so they both can be valued. And that's, for us, we understand why they would rise up in a portfolio and the role they will play, and we can model them. Something like Bitcoin is just too volatile, and it's not a store of value. It hasn't been. And it's very volatile. When stocks got hammered in recent crises, that Bitcoin went right with them. And so it is speculative, really tough to think about how it belongs in a long-term portfolio.
Just so you know, this is the exiting CEO of Vanguard, probably for statements like this. And just so you know, bonds haven't done all that well. According to Bitcoin analyst Dylan LeClaire, bonds have returned 0% since 2013. When most people discover new things, they tend to write them off. Like most people when they discover Bitcoin, it's usually considered a speculative asset. How do I value this thing? It doesn't have cash flows. It doesn't have any owners. How do I put a discounted cash flow model onto this asset class? Well, Bitcoin isn't just any other asset. It is an apex asset, a perfectly engineered monetary asset that is actually taking the monetary premium of other assets worldwide. It actually solves for the largest addressable market in the world. Money. New money doesn't come around every 5 years, 10 years, or 20 years. Money comes and it stays for 50 years, 100 years, and 150 years. I mean, look at gold. People have been considering that money for 5,000 years. So when you're talking about Bitcoin, you're not just talking about an asset that you're looking to add to a portfolio. You're talking about a completely different change in money itself. Similar to the Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Stanfords that I mentioned earlier, I think that we're going to look back at organizations like MicroStrategy and say that they were on the right side of history. Oh, and speaking of MicroStrategy, they actually increased the size of their corporate bond offering by 25 million from 500 million that we announced yesterday, just to stack more corn. Michael Saylor has said his strategy out loud. He continues to use the lesser assets to buy stronger assets. And since we're talking about St. Patrick's Day and the Irish, one day they're going to say that Michael Saylor and all Bitcoiners were lucky. And you know why we're going to say that we weren't lucky? Well, it's because we hodled Bitcoin for, if you're short term, 4 years. If you're reasonable, 10 years. If you're holding it for the right amount of time, forever.
Look, if you're going to invest in Bitcoin, a short time horizon is 4 years, a mid-time horizon is 10 years. The right time horizon is forever.
And just look at the price today. Bitcoin has fallen from 73K to 68K in just 24 hours. I mean, Bitcoiners earlier this week versus now are like, and you know what's the weirdest thing on days like this? When I get online, everybody is celebrating. Like my friend Camilla says, the bears are celebrating because Bitcoin died again. And bulls are celebrating because Bitcoin just got a whole lot cheaper. When OG Bitcoiners saw 67K, they were running to their Swan mobile app to smash by faster than this 60-year-old man right here. Life goal, run like this dude when I'm 40, let alone 67. The last I checked, Bitcoin is still up 180% the last year. Nothing about the asset itself has changed. In fact, it's getting stronger. I mean, we just passed Tay-Tay, Taylor Swift, in terms of Google searches. And get this, JP Morgan Managing Director, Nicholas P., Hurley, don't even get me to try to say that last name, says that Bitcoin's allocation in their investors' portfolios are 3.7 times greater than that of gold. And according to this chart from Bloomberg analyst Eric Balchunas, you could see why. I mean, look at gold at the bottom of this chart. Absolutely getting pummeled relative to Bitcoin, which shows the greatest demand of any ETF sector out there. I mean, look at this. March is only half over, and Bitcoin is already smashing the volumes from January and February. And you have nations like El Salvador taking radical steps in transparency by posting their Bitcoin holdings in a public address for the world to see. Just yesterday, they posted the Bitcoin address where it shows the transaction of them sending 5,690 Bitcoin to their self-custody. Their Bitcoin position is up almost 80 million right now. They've transformed their country from being one of the most dangerous in the world to one of the safest. They've also attracted more foreign investment than any other time in their history. And because they've realized that people want greater freedom in their money. They're even removing income taxes from international investments from 30% to 0 to attract more Bitcoiners to their country. El Salvador is the capital of Bitcoin in the world right now. There's no question about it. So, sure, we're having a down day, but just realize that we're aiming to build a stellar life. And like my fellow Swan Ulrich says, volatility is a feature of Bitcoin. It's not a bug. That's part of the journey that we're on. And like Swan CEO Corey Clipson likes to say, Bitcoin is way too volatile. This is all part of the journey of becoming a diamond hand Bitcoiner. Zoom out and appreciate this journey for all it's worth. And one day, I hope it's worth a lot. And let me talk about one thing. When people hear Bitcoiners say go up for the first time, they think they're just talking about number go up. But they're talking about freedom go up. They're talking about time with your kids go up. They're talking about the healthy you go up. They're talking about you rediscovering who you are and your purpose go up. So like St. Patrick, which some of you are going to be honoring in some celebrations this weekend, I'm sure of it, maybe Bitcoin will allow us to dedicate our lives to serving others and being generous. So I'll end with this. Go have a Shamrock Shake, stay humble, and stack sats. This is Dante Cook with Swan.com, and we're signing off for the weekend. Enjoy it, and happy St. Patty's Day.